Hello, awesome people. I hope you're all having an awesome day. As you've probably seen from the title, we'll be talking about hospital stays today. So, I've invited my friend Emily from another podcast and Bailey to discuss this topic.
Hi, I'm Emily.
So, we're going to talk about hospital stays, and so because we both had a little experience in that area, so we'll talk about like how we feel and our experience with that. So first of all, how did you feel when you were first admitted into a hospital?
I was in shock because I didn't know that I was diagnosed with that disorder, mental disorder, and I just when I first went to the hospital, I thought it was just for a checkup and it was nothing serious, and then they were just telling me to sit in a wheelchair because I couldn't move, and then they just pushed me up to a hospital ward, and I was just in shock, basically. How about you?
Oh, it's kind of like a natural reaction. I still laugh about it because it's better to laugh than to cry about it. And to have a friend like you to just laugh about our problems and to laugh about our stay, it's a better experience now, and to have someone to kind of relate to. I guess I was kind of scared because both of us had to do it by ourselves mostly, and doing it by ourselves, it's a hard thing to go through that whole process and that whole experience without anyone there and with a bunch of strangers and doctors and nurses, and you really don't know them, and it's a really tough thing to go through. So
I remember when I was first pushed up with the wheelchair, I was using my phone and I was taking random pictures of the wheelchair and myself because I felt so cool. Yeah, it's not that cool.
It feels good when someone's pushing you on a wheelchair, but the whole problem itself is not that good.
Yeah.
Oh, I took photos too. I took one actually just of myself to kind of record how I look like, and then I took one of my bed and then one of the ward, and I took one of my friend I met in the hospital. So that brings us nicely to our next section, which is friends in the hospital. So not friends and family outside, but friends we made or just surroundings or just really anything in the hospital.
Yeah. So I made quite a few friends because I stayed for a relatively long time because I was unstable, and the people I met were really interesting because I never knew there were certain problems in the world. I guess a lot of people dealt with different mental disorders, and I felt it was pretty eye-opening to see.
What type of mental disorders are you talking about?
There were quite a lot of self-harm and okay, I don't really mind to disclose that I was an anorexic, and I have plenty of friends that were anorexic as well, and we were just in it together and eating 6 times a day.
Yeah, for me, I wasn't in the mental health thing, but I have a lot of people in the social services, and that was scary because I thought my problem was kind of scary, but their ones are so much worse. And I had there were few kids that were all a few of them were younger than me, and they were little kids, and we would play with them. There was a few that were nonverbal and they couldn't really talk, and then after a while the nurses told me that they were orphans, and a lot of them were in the system and in the foster system, and I guess that's very scary, I guess, because a lot of them didn't have problems. A lot of them just had minor problems, and there were just a lot of different types.
Yeah.
And so
there was babies where their parents were drug addicts, and they would just stay in the hospital, like with like minimum care by like the nurses, and I felt really bad for them.
Yeah, so I guess I met a friend, a kid younger than me, around my sister's age, and we didn't really know each other. I saw her waiting, and then we went in. We talked a bit, and then like we tried to bond around it because we had similar problems, and we started talking, and she was very nice about it. And
I feel like meeting friends like during like when you're in like your lowest and like you guys can bond over things is like pretty like nice, because like I think when I was hospitalized, it was during COVID, and like there were restrictions, so like parents could barely come in. Like mine was like kind of severe, so I got once a week, but it was still not enough. Like you really need like mental support, and I just felt like it was really needed. Yeah.
yeah, so I think I've been like, we've all been in hospitals, and I think I've been like, for as much as I could remember, 2 of them were really scary, and I'm talking about the second one, but the first one was more of a physical thing, and it was scary both times. But first time I had my parents, so it wasn't that scary. But when you've got no parents and you have to go through the whole thing by yourself, it does scare.
Yeah.
It does scare the hell out of you, and you do learn a lot, and ultimately it's not a good experience, but it is an eye opener, and you kind of learn about a lot of stuff that you didn't know really existed or you didn't know happened, and so that's a good part.
I feel like this is kind of off topic, but like I feel like we shouldn't compare to each other about like how long you've stayed in the hospital, and like because it doesn't really like you can like you shouldn't compare to each other, because like people have their own problems, and they might like be out of hospital but they're still struggling, but some are like maybe they just stay for a long time but they have like minor issues, and I feel like you shouldn't like compare to each other, because like I feel like I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to explain because all our problems are different to a degree, and we can't really compare each of our problems because it's always different and we have different situations, and so it just doesn't really work as well if we keep comparing, like how long did you stay, which hospital did you go to, was it like a private one or a public one. But if you don't compare and you just share your experience, that's quite good because you have someone to talk to and someone to relate to. It's just better to not really compare and to say like, oh, I stayed for a week and you stayed for a month. Yeah, your one was more severe. Yeah. Oh, you wasn't my parents wasn't allowed inside. Oh, I'm off so much worse. It's like not that kind of stuff. So yeah. So now we can talk about friends and family outside of hospital. So maybe some you made during that time and also some you already had, and like how they reacted to it, and really everything involved.
I feel like so because family, like of course like they will always be by your side, like, but friends, like, yeah, true friends will always stick by you, but like, do they actually? So basically I had a friend and we used to be really good friends, and when I was diagnosed, like, yeah, she tried to be really supportive, but like we only called, and she didn't really understand because it was all really new to her, and I felt really bad, but at the same time I really needed the support. So, and I feel like I understand that she didn't really like she didn't know how to like handle the situation, and so I feel like, and maybe she was like, I don't know, like, how do I word it? Like,
kind of lost, maybe.
Yeah.
And like some friends don't know really how to react to a situation like that. And the point is to not find like a correct way to respond to it, but find a natural way to know which is the best for someone. Mm-hmm. And I think for most people, we have friends that are better with dealing this kind of situations. I have a lot of friends I did talk to with like calling. I didn't call anyone except for my mom, but I did text a lot of my friends, and it was a lot of them understood problems very well, but I did choose who to talk to because I knew some of them might not be very, like, they don't feel that well talking to me about this kind of problem, and it doesn't, like, hurt me. It doesn't mean they're not a true friend. They might just be kind of new, and I respect that, so I won't push any boundaries. It's just, some time and some education, and they would know better of how to deal with this kind of situation, because after all, it's all about experience. So a person who has experienced it would find it easier to talk to another person with that problem and to guide them to get better.
And we can choose who to talk to. Like, we don't have to tell everyone that, oh, we're hospitalized, we're, like, the best out of... Like, it's, like, not something to, like, talk to everyone about. Like, you can choose who to talk to, and...
Yeah, and it's not to brag about, because it's not cool, it's not fun, I really hated it. But some people think it's lucky. I had people telling me, oh, you're so lucky you missed, like, physics or something.
Yeah.
You missed a whole term of maths. You missed this, you missed that. Like, did people tell you were very lucky because you missed the term of maths?
No.
We don't like it when people say things like that, because we'd much rather go and learn how to do the Pythagoras theorem than actually staying in the hospital. And so it's a lot scarier to stay in the hospital than do a physics test. So yeah, I did miss my physics test. So I have another topic to talk about, and that's the schoolwork and missing, if you missed any schoolwork or anything important in school, and how did you make up for that? Because I personally wasn't hospitalized for a very long time, but I know you were for a much longer time, and you must have missed a lot of work, and how did you catch up with that?
I basically skipped a whole term of school, and like, even after I left the hospital, the school counselor actually advised me not to go back to school so fast because I would feel overwhelmed. And I completely understand, but as a perfectionist myself, I feel like I had to catch up with everything. And she was like, the school counselor was really nice about it, and she was like, you don't have to catch up on anything. You don't have to take the exams or anything. You can just, like, slowly ease into it. Maybe, like, take half-day lessons or just take a few lessons every day. And I really wanted to catch up. The doctors didn't let me to do work at the hospital because and so I just, when I got back home, like the next day when I got back home from the hospital, I just, like, kept doing math, and I kept doing, like, revising so hard, and I ended up taking the exam. But I don't think, like, I think it's just me. Like, you don't have to, like, catch up on everything. You can just, like, slowly ease into it, like my school counselor said. But I was such a perfectionist then that I had to do everything.
I'm very proud of you for I'm very proud of you for trying so hard to fit in and going back into schedule and all that, because for me, I was quite lazy. Like, I was just very overwhelmed. I went back home, I was tired. The first thing I did was sleep. I loved my bed. It felt so good. I had my blanket back. I used that for most of my life. I couldn't go a day without it, but I had to go a long time without that blanket. I was really sad. So I had, like, a physics test that I missed, and I had to do it the week after, and I didn't revise for it because I do leave things to last minute. I'm trying to work on that schedule and work on the habit, but the physics test was on a Friday, and I sadly was going to revise for it on a Thursday, but on the Thursday I got hospitalized, so the week after I did revise for the test and I had to do it. And that test, I got a really low score. I set the record for my lowest ever test score. It was 67%. It was my lowest ever.
Don't worry, mine's, like, really bad as well.
Yeah. I think my previous lowest one was, like, 77. And I broke it with 67. And honestly, I wasn't upset or anything. I don't cry. I don't cry normally, so I didn't really cry, and I didn't really feel anything. It wasn't my first priority to get a good test, like good test score for physics. So I was like, yeah, I'll do better next time.
Yeah, and we shouldn't be pressured to do everything correctly because we didn't have school not like others. So if people get better scores than you, it doesn't mean that you're not validated and you're not like, good enough.
I felt really behind in maths and a few subjects. I felt like I just wasn't smart enough, and I felt like I was already below average, so I didn't want to go a lot below average. Like, I'm not that good at English, but I didn't want to miss anything. Like, I didn't want to miss tests or anything. Like, because you have to catch up on it, but then you have to miss a whole lesson and do it yourself, and it's not the best thing to miss out on schoolwork. So even though a lot of my friends, they're really happy about, like, missing stuff, and, like, skipping subjects, but personally, I hate it.
Yeah.
Because if you skip it, it means you have to do it anyways, and you have to do it yourself, and it's not that good. I don't really like it that much, so. Yeah. So, next thing we'll talk about is the food, because, I know before we recorded this that we both had very different experiences with the food in the hospital, and personally for me, food is very important. I love food, like good food, so it was a thing I did have very strong opinions about in terms of food in the hospital, so if you'd like to share.
I said previously I was an anorexic, so I never ate a lot of food before I went to hospital, but when I went to hospital, all I had to do was just eat and sleep, and the food tasted so good because I haven't had like food in so long, and I don't know if I go back now and I will feel like it tastes terrible, but at that time I really enjoyed the food because I hadn't had actual amounts, like good food, like not even good, like actual proportions of food that I could actually enjoy in so long.
What food did you have? Like, what type?
They had, like, fish and, like, pork and, like, chicken, like...
Oh, that seems so cool. How about for breakfast? I want to know.
Oh, for breakfast? Because, I was on a, like... I had, like, specific, like...
Diet, kind of?
Yeah, diet. And so I didn't eat, like, others. So I think others, they ate, like, congee or something. But, because I'm a big fan of bread, so I specifically, like, asked for, like, having, so that time I had, like, the bread that everyone had, like, a bun, like, a Chinese bun with, like, filling inside, there was the bun, and then I also had, like, a cheese sandwich, and I also had, like, a bun for, like, it's just, like, plain bun, and I also had, like, I had a bunch of food, but I kept having bread because I really liked it.
Oh, for me, it's the opposite because I really hate bread. But I think this topic we can both laugh about because after something so serious, we do want to, like, laugh about it.
Yeah.
And food is something really nice to laugh about because I did enjoy my food that well because I'm very picky with my food. Not very picky. Like, I do eat most food, but I'm picky with some kinds of food. Yeah. Like, I can't eat bread. I don't think it's an allergy. I just can't eat it. Like, I can't swallow it. I'll throw up.
It's so good.
I will throw up bread. I don't eat bread. And, like, dried things. Like, sandwiches are okay. But then their food, the first few days were the worst. They kept serving, like, those wheat congees. And I hated those. And then they had, like, macaroni, and I was very happy about that. But then afterwards, like, because I guess it's a hospital, the soup is so plain. It's like they boiled macaroni and added water into it. There was no flavor. And then I was just really sad because I didn't have, like, a diet problem or anything. And, so yeah, I was a little disappointed with the food, but it's a public hospital. Yeah. And so I was fine with it, but then the thing was, little kids had a different menu. Really? And personally, yeah, I really liked their food. They had juice boxes while I didn't. I had to drink water, and they got juice boxes, and their food was just a lot better. And my food, it was okay. It wasn't that bad. But then, like, for breakfast, they would always have, like, congee and a pack of biscuits, and I'll only eat the biscuits. But I really started to enjoy eating fruits, so oranges and apples during that time, because it was the best thing about the food. but then my friends didn't like it, so then every time at dinner I'd end up eating like 5 oranges and 5 apples, and I'd feel so good. Like, I'll be peeling oranges while watching NBA on the TV.
Help!
Yeah. And I'll just be eating oranges nonstop and while watching the TV and like talking. But then because of COVID and everything, a few nurses are very nice about it, but a few nurses are really strict. Like, they yell at us and like get really mad at us for just being a little closer to another person. So we weren't allowed to really leave the bed. And not leaving the bed is kind of hard, so.
Yeah.
The next thing I would like to talk about is basically the system in the hospital, because I think a lot of my listeners, they thought about, like, when they think about hospital, they want to think about what happens in it, and really specifically the doctors and the nurses and the people in it and how it all works, like what happens.
So for me, after I have my breakfast and my meds and I take a nap, the doctor comes in and then does a round of check, and then after lunch and another nap, the doctor comes in again, and the doctor doesn't really, like, they don't really do much. They just like check on you, make sure you're okay, like for me. But the nurses really helped me a lot because they, like, I was really lucky I had to have, like, good nurses. They were really nice about everything. And then I actually got really bored during my stay, and one of the nurses actually taught me how to knit, and I ended up knitting a lot of scarves.
Yeah, that's very cool, because because for me, we'd wake up, technically, like, the lights turn on at 7, and you have to wake up at that moment. And of course, me being a person who can't sleep in an unfamiliar environment, the first night I slept at like 1 a.m. and waking up at 7 was hard. And they also have people like taking rubbish, like cleaning at 6, and the rubbish bags are so loud, and it's 6 in the morning, and they're like yelling at, like, oh, pass me the rubbish bags, and it's just really annoying. But then they do turn on the lights at 7, and usually my friend who I met there, she also got admitted the same day as me, and she also told me she was a person that couldn't sleep that well, and just doesn't, like, not a problem, but like she doesn't sleep that well in unfamiliar environments. But then I have a lot of friends that told me that, like, when I went camping, and then they fell asleep, and I'm lonely, couldn't sleep, and just sitting there. But I did fall asleep before her. She slept at, like, 4 in the morning and woke up at 7 in the morning and had a ton of energy. I had never seen a person with so much energy. The next few days, she slept at, like, 1 or 2 and woke up at 7, jumping around and, like, running in circles. So that was it. Like,
how were the doctors and nurses?
Yeah, so, like, in the morning, we have, like, those, we have, like, those bracelets, those QR codes. Yeah, it's cool to have someone to relate to. I thought it would be something different, but because we're both in a public hospital in Hong Kong, so we both had, like, those, they scan it, and then they had to watch me take the meds. So then you take it, they pass you the cup. Even though the water's too hot, they're looking at you, they're making you uncomfortable, so you have to drink it. They scan whatever bracelet, like, whatever you call it. I don't know what you call it. A tag or something.
The wristband.
Yeah, wristband. And then my schedule was very, like, weird, because, like, once in a while, like, a social worker would come in, and once in a while, a doctor would come in, and I never know when. But in the last few days, it was better, because, like, they told me someone would come in at 2 in the afternoon, so I would talk to my mom and talk to my friends. I'm like, oh, I have to leave. And so I would just be waiting, sometimes on my phone, and then sometimes just watching TV, and I also had, like, other kids, and I'll be throwing stuff to them, and they'd be catching, and we'd be playing around. And so, that was good, and I don't know for you, if it's the same for you, but after I stayed in hospital for, like, 2 or 3 days, they had, like, this mandatory thing where if you stay there for more than 3 days, there would be, like, teachers like not really teachers, but I had like a few people come in and teach me like other subjects. Like one taught me maths, one taught me English. But of course, education is not as good as a school because they have a lot of children to go through, and each of them like takes 20 minutes for each of them. And so I don't know if you had that.
I feel like that when I was hospitalized, the main priority was just to sleep. Like, just sleep and eat and sleep and eat. So they didn't allow me to go on my phone because it would waste too much energy. And they wouldn't allow me to read because I would waste too much energy. So all I did was just stay in bed, and maybe watch some TV in the hospital. But, I mean, like, I'm really grateful for, the therapist that comes every Monday, and she would like talk to me about stuff, like random stuff. We would literally just like forget about my mental health and stuff, and we would just talk about like maybe the new ice cream flavor that's on 7-Eleven. But I also had like a game program thingy where it's on Zoom, and that's the only time they let me go on my phone. And so basically they would just like send in kits and you can like play while I was Zooming with them. And it was really cool.
It sounds fun, but for me, my doctors didn't really care that much in terms of like how happy you are. You get your phone and you do whatever you want, and then you don't have anyone, and suddenly they come in and they drag you across the hall to another room and then like sit there. Did your therapist like talk in English or
Chinese? And I was like, I don't
Did
know
that
how
stress
to
you out?
communicate.
Yeah, I had a few doctors that talked to me in Chinese, like Cantonese.
Yeah.
Like, I know the basics. I know how to, like, socialize with them. But then I told them, I gave them warning. I am socially awkward. I'm an introvert. Like, if it gets weird, you do the talking. And then, so, some of them are really nice. I had, like, this guy who was a psychiatrist, I think. And he was just talking to me. And, I thought it was a normal conversation. I thought he was just checking up on me.
Yeah.
But then secretly he was writing a report on me, which is the biggest betrayal. And I was really happy. He watched the NBA, and we were talking about the NBA. I was talking about the Lakers. He was talking about like the Grizzlies or something, and I was really happy. I was talking about like LeBron James and how bad he was like over the last few weeks, and he was like, oh yeah, and then suddenly he's like, oh, how about your family life? Oh, how about your mental health? And I thought it was a good conversation, but he did seem quite nice. And one thing I really want to talk about is how sudden everything is. Like, they seem so nice. Like, they have, they wear Crocs, and they have, like, little tiny stickers, and they give me stickers, and I still stick them on my laptop. I have one that I keep on my laptop, and they give me, like, badges, and they have, like, badges on their, like, like the hospital gown and everything, and they look really nice and friendly. And then they sit down, and they're like, I'm not accusing you of anything, but I just have to ask you these questions because it's mandatory. And they go like, oh, are you sexually active? Oh, are you on drugs? Oh, do you do alcohol? Oh, do you do this? Do you smoke? Blah, blah, blah. Do you have a boyfriend? Do you have a girlfriend? And it's just really direct. Like, they don't try to, like, slowly talk to you. They don't
have time. They're just like, let's just get into the topic. Let's just go.
I have to get into this. I have to tick off these boxes, and I have to tell. So it is quite hard, but a lot of them are really nice. And I don't know for you, but they did like a physical checkup. Did you do that?
No.
Oh, I had to do a physical checkup. Apparently, it's mandatory, and it was very scary because you had to take off all your clothes. But then she was very nice, but of course, it's uncomfortable being, like, I'm not very touchy and physical, so then the doctor said I was the fastest one to put all my clothes back on, so I take that as a compliment.
I also, like, I hate, like, it's not a hate, I just understand it, but I get really, like, weirded out when, like, therapists suddenly, like, they would be, like, the thought that they would suddenly, like, write a report, like, based on what we talked about, like, scares me off. Like, did I say anything wrong? Did I say anything?
Yeah, like, I don't want to lie.
Yeah.
But I'm afraid that if I don't lie, it would lead them to think about something. So,
Yeah.
like, it's obvious they're not there for a conversation.
Yeah.
They've got notebooks. They've got, like, 3 laptops around them. You're in, like, a private room.
Yeah.
And I don't know, but a big thing of, like, wrong with me, I have, like, this crippling anxiety, and I'm really scared people will forget about me, and I don't like being isolated. I like being alone sometimes, but the doctor, she was like, oh, give me a second, and she went out. And I had to wait for 5 minutes in the room doing nothing, and I was so scared she forgot about me. And so that was a problem. Yeah. So, something else I would like to talk about is what happened when you first knew you had to go into a hospital, when you first knew you were going to stay for quite a long time in a hospital?
I was just, like, kind of grateful, because I always knew that I had a problem. I just wanted someone to tell me that I had a problem. That someone would bring me to a hospital and tell me that you actually have this problem, and, like... And I was just glad that I could be off school, because that time we were in home learning, and I was really, like, my anxiety was really bad, and I really couldn't, like, focus at all. I felt like my brain was slowly deteriorating in a way.
Well,
Yeah.
I guess it is kind of okay to miss school when it's home learning, because everyone's education is not, like, everyone's not learning that well. But then, I thought it was unnecessary to be in hospital. I kind of felt a bit like I was punished at first, but now I'm okay. Like, I was in school, and then it's like, suddenly you have to go to the hospital, and it does scare me a bit, having, like, someone come in and tell you, like, I'm just having my normal day. I have chemistry at the end of the day. I love chemistry, and then I have maths before that. I love Wednesdays. It's a good Wednesday. Like, yeah, I just finished. I had music lesson, I'm done, I'm eating lunch, and then it's like, boom, you're done, you can go to the hospital, you choose to go now, or at the end of the day, and I'm like, yeah, can I please go to chemistry and maths?
Yeah, in a way, I was, like, glad, but at the same time, I was, like, mad at, like, why is it me that's in the hospital? Like, at first, I was, like, I didn't understand at all, and my dad gave me this, like, notebook, and I just kept, like, drawing crosses, and, like, I was really mad, and then, but at the same time, like, I needed it, like, I know I needed it, I know I needed help.
It does take some time to really look back at it and see the bigger picture, and to realize ultimately they were doing what they thought was the best for you.
Yeah.
And how did your family really feel about that?
They were really sad. They I wouldn't say they were disappointed. Like, I really, like, they were just, like, they were in shock, I guess, because, like, anorexia, like, you just keep losing weight, and, like, day by day they don't notice, but, like, others do, and, like, they were, like, sad that they couldn't help me, and,
like, they didn't notice first and had to wait for someone else, and they thought that they are important in your life, and they should have noticed.
They thought that they were their fault, and I was like, no, it's not your fault. It's just that it's. I feel like anorexia is not anyone's fault. It's a mental disorder, and you can't help to have it or not.
It's not the person's fault. It's not the person who cares about you. It's not their fault. It's really something you're just there with, and it's just there, and it's not anyone's fault. You can't blame this mental disorder on someone, and a few scientists has proven that it could be, like, if genetics can have something to do with it, but it's not completely proven, so we don't really know, so we can't blame it on our parents. We can't blame it on our families for giving us this disorder, because it's not entirely true that they gave it to us. It might be, but in most cases it's not. So So, Emily, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you.
And for me, I think I have done a lot better now after being in the hospital, and I think I've learned a lot. And there were, like, some ups and some downs, and it was a different experience to what I have previously gone through. And for me, I would do a lot to unlive that experience, but ultimately I can't do that in real life, so I've just accepted and tried to move on.
Yay!
How about you? How did your hospital experience help you?
It really allowed me to grow a lot and allowed me to like mature a lot, because I really like never thought that, like, I really slowed down to think about like how I'm grateful for everything I have now, and how that we shouldn't think that living our life now is like normal. Like, we should be grateful of every day, and it's so cheesy, but it's true. So yeah.
So I hope that anorexia is treating you a bit better, and I think you're getting a lot better, and I hope you're doing well, Emily. So as usual, before we end this, I would like to remind you to please reach out for help if you're in any danger, and please talk to a trusted adult if you're feeling down or unwell, and you can also call a crisis hotline. And if you're in an emergency, please call your local emergency services. And of course, you can talk to me for a chat or for some teenage advice or something. But I am not trained and I'm not a professional. So I would really suggest talking to an adult or a professional in this area first. So please do not hesitate to seek help. And before we finish this episode, I would like to say thank you for listening, and you can also contact me at my Linktree. If you're listening on Spotify, it's in my about, and you can easily find out my Instagram bio. So please contact me there for any suggestions, feedback, or if you just want to have a chat. So I really hope that helps. Thank you for listening, and I have to say, time goes by really quickly when I'm not doing an episode by myself and talking to someone, because it seems like an actual, like a genuine conversation. Yeah. So I really hope you listen to my other episodes, and I hope you have an awesome day.
Bye.